Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're really focusing in, taking a close look at three specific undergraduate colleges down in Southern California. Pomona College, Claremont McKenna College, CMC, and Pitzer College. We know you want to get up to speed quickly and thoroughly, and that's what we're aiming for.
Yeah, we've sifted through quite a bit of material rankings, program details, the whole lot to really pull out the key stuff about these three schools.
Exactly. Think of it as a shortcut to being well-informed on these particular Claremont colleges without getting buried in information. So let's dive in.
Okay. And it's interesting right off the bat because even though Pomona, CMC, and Pitzer are all part of this Claremont consortium, they each have a pretty distinct flavor, a different approach.
Right, different strengths.
Definitely. We're looking at their academic chops, especially in fields that cross disciplines, using all sorts of sources to paint a picture.
Okay, let's kick things off with Pomona College. I mean, its reputation is just consistently strong.
Oh, yeah. Top tier.
U.S. News has them at number 5 nationally for liberal arts colleges for 2025.
Yeah.
And it's not just them. Princeton Review loves their financial aid. Forbes, Niche, they're always in the top 10 somewhere. Niche actually puts Pomona as the third best in all of California, just behind Stanford and Caltech. That's a pretty hefty company.
It really is. And something you mentioned earlier, that high PhD productivity rate, that really says something.
Yeah, what does that signal to you?
Well, it tells you they're not just giving a good, broad education. They're actually equipping students with serious research skills, the kind you need for doctoral programs, especially in the sciences.
Right, it's not just theory.
Exactly. And being part of the Claremont colleges, that whole ecosystem, it definitely boosts their science and math reputation, too.
Okay, so digging into the academics, the quality sounds, well, intense, but in a good way.
That's a good way to put it. High-quality, small classes, and a big emphasis on connecting different fields.
Like their neuroscience program you mentioned that pulls from different areas?
Yeah, exactly. It's a great example. It draws from biology, psychology, and chemistry. So you're getting this really holistic view of the brain.
So it's broad liberal arts plus a deep dive into the major.
Precisely. For neuroscience, you've got your core biology, chemistry, physics, psych. But then you get into specialized neuroscience courses, cellular, systems, cognitive, behavioral.
And there's a big final project, right? A thesis.
Yep, a senior capstone. It's either experimental research or a significant project-based thesis. It's a serious piece of work. Gives students real, hands-on research jobs.
And they seem to encourage mixing it up, like neuroscience with philosophy or computer science.
Definitely. Double majors or adding a minor in something like linguistics or philosophy isn't unusual at all. The curriculum is kind of built to let you see those connections, even between neuroscience and, say, economics.
Wow. Okay, so it's rigorous. You said maybe seminar-style classes?
Often, yeah. Small groups. And the professors expect you to really engage, like reading actual research papers, not just textbooks. Neuroscience is specifically called out as being very tough.
Intense. But the small classes probably help make it feel supportive, too.
That's the idea. Rigorous, but not cutthroat. The small size helps foster that. Plus, they're WASC accredited, always updating the curriculum with the latest stuff, modern lab techniques, neuroimmunology, brain imaging, that sort of thing.
Let's talk about the faculty then. Sounds like they're pretty central to the whole experience.
Oh, absolutely. They're at the heart of it. The key thing is all classes are taught by professors. No TAs leading sections.
Really? That's huge.
It is. And that student-faculty ratio, about 7-to-1, it's incredibly low.
Wow.
So for neuroscience, you've got faculty from biology, psych, chemistry, doing research on everything from molecules to cognition to clinical applications. Think Professor Nicole Weeks, she's known for involving undergrads directly in her research, even co-authoring papers.
So they're active researchers but focused on teaching undergrads.
Exactly, that's the model. They're hired for being great teachers and cutting-edge researchers. Students consistently praise the teaching quality.
And those small classes mean real guidance in labs, I imagine.
For sure. Like you said, an intro-neuro lecture might have 15 students, and the lab maybe 7 or 8. That's a lot of personal attention. Sometimes visiting profs or faculty from other Claremonts teach specialized stuff, too.
Okay, and this ties into experiential learning, right? The research focus.
Huge emphasis on research. Most neuroscience majors end up doing independent research with a faculty mentor.
Beyond the required thesis.
Often, yeah. And that senior thesis is a major research experience in itself. Plus, there's the Summer Undergraduate Research Program, SURP, that gives stipends for students to stay on campus and do research over the summer.
Nice.
And you're not limited to Pomona faculty. Students can do research at the other Claremonts or even off campus. It's a really active research scene, and undergrads get pulled right into the labs, especially in cognitive neuroscience, for example.
So you're not just learning about research, you're actually doing it.
Exactly, early and often. That's incredibly valuable, especially if you're thinking grad school or a STEM career. And being able to collaborate across the consortium just widens the possibilities.
Which brings us to outcomes. How do Pomona grads do, especially in neuroscience?
Outstanding, really. A lot go on to top-tier PhD or MD programs. You hear names like Stanford, Harvard, UCSD for PhDs, UCSF, Duke for MDs. Those are illustrative, of course, but it gives you an idea.
That Pomona name plus the research experience must give them an edge.
A strong edge, yeah. And for those going straight into the workforce, lots of options. Research labs, biotech, healthcare, even consulting. That liberal arts space makes them adaptable.
So high rates of PhDs and MDs overall.
Definitely. It connects right back to those rankings and the reputation, the whole system, rigorous academics, supportive environment, research focus. It clearly sets students up for success.
What's it actually like to be a student there? The culture.
People describe it as really close-knit, collaborative, supportive, friendly, lots of intellectual curiosity floating around.
Small size helps with that, I guess.
For sure. You build strong relationships with classmates and professors. And student life is active clubs, events, traditions, a lot of it happening across the 5 Cs. So a neuroscience student might be in a 5C science club or volunteering with the Science Bus project.
And the campus itself.
Oh, it's beautiful. Classic Southern California, Spanish colonial architecture, palm trees, orange groves, views of the mountains. It has a kind of relaxed, sunny vibe.
And non-competitive, you mentioned that before.
Yeah, they don't do class rankings. There's a strong honor code, too. Students schedule their own exams, take them unproctored. It builds a lot of trust.
Interesting. What about flexibility? Can you shape your own path?
Tremendous flexibility, actually, within that liberal arts framework. Even the neuroscience major, despite the core stuff, lets you tailor it.
And double majoring is easy.
Relatively easy, yeah. Or adding a minor. Plus, the cross-registration with the other Claremont colleges is huge. Opens up so many courses at CMC, Pitzer, Scripps, Harvey Mudd.
So you're not siloed.
Not at all. It's typically a 4-year graduation path. Study abroad is really common and well-supported. AP credits can give you some wiggle room in course selection, too. And the advising is supposed to be really strong to help you figure it all out.
Okay, the flip side. Getting in. It sounds tough.
Extremely tough. Acceptance rate is down around 8%. That's Ivy League territory.
Wow. So perfect scores needed.
Well, admitted students have superb academics, SATs, in the mid-1400s to mid-1500s when they required them. Nearly all top 10% of their class. GPAs near 4.0 with tough courses. But it's test optional now and very holistic.
What does holistic mean in practice there?
They really look beyond the numbers. Intellectual curiosity, how you've engaged with your community, are you a good fit for their collaborative vibe? Essays, recommendations, the optional interview, those carry a lot of weight.
And they want diversity.
Definitely. Geographic, ethnic, first-generation status. I think a recent class was over 20% first-gen. They review each application in committee, considering your high school context. Showing you're genuinely interested, demonstrated interest, might subtly help too.
What about early decision?
That fills about half the class, and the acceptance rate is higher there, as you'd expect. If Pomona's your absolute top choice, ED is worth considering.
Okay, last piece for Pomona. Affordability. That sticker price looks high.
It is high, yeah. Around $82,000 for 2025. And this is crucial, they're need-blind for U.S. students.
Meaning your ability to pay doesn't affect your admission chances.
Correct. And they commit to meeting 100% of your demonstrated financial need if you get in.
How generous is the aid?
Very generous. They have a policy of no loans for the first $50,000 of needs, so loan-free packages are common. The average net cost for families on aid is around $17,000 a year.
And that's mostly grants.
Mostly grants and scholarships, plus maybe some work study. Pomona itself doesn't offer merit scholarships, but students often bring in outside ones. Work study might be around $2,500 a year. They also have funding for unpaid summer internships or research.
So debt levels are low at graduation.
Generally, yes. The bottom line is, for a student with significant demonstrated need, Pomona can actually end up being more affordable than a state school like a UC. You just have to get past that initial sticker shock and see what the aid package looks like.
Got it. Okay, let's shift gears to Claremont McKenna College CMC, also highly ranked.
Very highly. Number 8 for National Liberal Arts Colleges on U.S. News 2025. But check this out. The Wall Street Journal ranked CMC number 5 best college in the whole country in 2024. That includes all universities.
Whoa, that's a big statement. Why so high there?
The WSJ rankings lean heavily on outcomes, salaries, career trajectory. CMC has a strong reputation traditionally in economics and government leadership roles, but they're also seriously beefing up their sciences now.
So their prestige is top tier, comparable to Pomona.
Yeah. Excellent institutional prestige, strong peer reputation. They produce Rhodes Scholars, Fulbrights. Their psych and bio programs are well regarded. And again, they benefit hugely from being in the Claremont Consortium with Pomona and Harvey Mudd right there.
So that WSJ ranking suggests great outcomes.
Exactly. They ranked CMC as the top liberal arts college in the West for outcomes. Students seem happy there too, niche. Forbes give them high marks for satisfaction and success. Forbes had them as #2 liberal arts in 2024.
Okay. Academics at CMC, similar themes, small classes, rigor.
Yep. Small, tough classes, interdisciplinary focus, superb teaching, thanks to that low student-faculty ratio, about 8.1 there, and the focus on undergrads.
How did neuroscience work there historically?
Historically, it was mainly through the Keck Science Department. That's an intercollegiate department shared with Pitzer and Scripps. You'd take about 16 courses across bio, chem, psych, kind of a traditional neuroscience prep core classes, electives, maybe focusing molecular or cognitive behavioral. And it ended with a senior thesis research project.
But that's changing.
Big change. They just launched a new Integrated Sciences program in fall 2024.
Integrated sciences, what did that involve?
It's pretty innovative. It directly integrates computation, data science, and applied math with a specific science domain, like neuroscience.
So more quantitative focus built right in.
Exactly. The core includes computational tools, data analysis, modeling, scientific reasoning. If you focus on neuroscience within that program, you're doing it with this heavy computational and data lens, alongside focused research and electives. Still requires a capstone thesis or project.
Can you still take traditional neuroscience courses?
Oh, yeah. You can still cross-register for specialized neuroscience classes at Pomona or the other Claremonts. And the whole program, including the new Integrated Sciences, is accredited by WSCUC.
Faculty and teaching at CMC. Sounds like another strength.
Definitely renowned for excellent teaching and mentorship. That 8.1 ratio means professors are accessible. Again, all courses taught by faculty, no TAs.
And CMC students can take classes with Keck or Pomona profs.
Yep. So they have access to this wide pool of impressive scholars across the consortium who are really committed to undergrads. Faculty include Fulbright scholars, NSF grant winners. CMC consistently gets high ratings for professor quality.
What about getting experience outside the classroom? Internships, research?
CMC is huge on experiential learning. The internship participation rate is incredibly high, like 89% of students do at least one.
Wow. How do they manage that?
They have the Soul Center for Student Opportunity, basically their career center, and it's very active in placing students in funded summer internships. Think biotech, medical research, neurotech labs.
Funded internships are key.
Absolutely. And they have this sponsored internships program that gives money for unpaid internships anywhere, maybe at the NIH or a neuroscience lab in another city. They even have semester-long internship programs for credit in Silicon Valley and DC.
And the senior thesis is required for everyone.
Yes. Every single CMC student does a senior thesis. In the sciences, that often means lab research or experimental work. It's a serious 2-semester independent project.
So lots of practical application. How does that translate to careers and ROI?
Very successfully. Grads do well in healthcare, biotech, tech. Many go to top grad and med schools. That CMC reputation and the strong alumni network really help with placement in competitive fields.
Yeah, the ROI numbers reflect that.
Yeah, pay scale shows a high 20-year net ROI. Forbes called them #2 Best Value Liberal Arts College in 2024. Money Magazine rates them well for affordability outcomes. Student debt at graduation tends to be relatively low, too.
And the new Integrated Sciences program might boost that even more for science students.
That's the expectation. It should make neuroscience-focused grads even more competitive for data-intensive roles or research.
Okay, what's the vibe like at CMC? The culture?
It's described as vibrant, close-knit. The culture definitely leans collaborative, but also maybe more entrepreneurial and outgoing compared to some other LACs.
More pre-professional, maybe.
Perhaps a bit more explicitly focused on leadership and careers, yeah. But it's still a small liberal arts college within the bigger 5C environment, so you get that intimacy plus the broader resources and social life.
How does a science student fit in at a place known for econ and gov?
It's a growing contingent. Neuroscience students are part of a science-focused group, but there's a lot of interaction across majors. CMC has a rep for being pretty social, leadership-oriented.
Lots of clubs and activities.
Over 50 official clubs on campus, plus access to all the 5C clubs, so definitely opportunities related to psychology or neuroscience, maybe through Keck Science or jointly with other colleges. The social scene is lively events, parties, but also just lots happening across the Claremonts. Strong sense of community, school spirit.
Flexibility-wise, the Integrated Sciences program sounds structured, but are there still options?
Yeah, there's flexibility in choosing your research projects and electives within that structure. And crucially, cross-registration is still a big thing. If you need a very specific neuroscience elective, you can likely find it at Pomona or Scripps or Pitzer through Keck.
So you can still customize.
Definitely. Standard 4 years to graduate. Study abroad is possible. And strong advising helps you navigate all the consortium options.
Admissions at CMC also highly selective.
Very. Acceptance rate around 9% for the last class. Similar to Pomona, admitted students have strong academics. SATs maybe 1410, 1480, ACTs 3234, average unweighted GPA around 3.7. But again, it's holistic.
What are they looking for beyond grades?
Academics, essays, recommendations, definitely. But extracurriculars showing leadership and service are really emphasized at CMC. They're looking for fit with that mission of educating leaders for the public and private sector.
And diversity, need blank.
Striving for diversity, racial, ethnic, international, socioeconomic. And yes, need blind admission for U.S. citizens and permanent residents. They also have an early decision option.
Okay, affordability at CMC, another high sticker price.
Yep, even higher, around $88,810 for 2024-25. But, like Pomona, they commit to meeting 100% of demonstrated need for admitted U.S. students permanent resident.
What percentage gets an 8?
Almost half, about 48%. And the average need-based aid package is huge, around $65,837 a year.
So the average net cost is much lower.
Right, around $23,000 for those getting A's. They have some limited merit scholarships, like the McKenna Achievement Award. Work study is often part of the package. And again, average debt for borrowers at graduation is relatively low, so CMC can also be very affordable if you have demonstrated need.
Okay, so we've covered Pomona and CMC in detail. Now, we initially planned to discuss Pitzer College, too.
Right, and Pitzer is absolutely a key part of the Claremont colleges, and importantly, it's part of that WM Keck Science department we mentioned.
Which CMC students use for neuroscience.
Exactly. So students interested in neuroscience via Keck would definitely interact with Pitzer faculty, take courses potentially involving Pitzer resources. However, the specific materials we reviewed for this deep dive didn't give us a detailed, standalone look at Pitzer's own distinct programs or neuroscience offerings in the same way they did for Pomona and CMC.
So just to be clear, we can't really do that same level of analysis for Pitzer today based on our sources.
Unfortunately, no. Not a comparable deep dive. We know it's integrated into tech science, and it has its own unique focus on social justice and interdisciplinary studies within the liberal arts, but we lack the specific program details for a full breakdown here.
Understood. So wrapping up then, based on what we did dive into, Pomona and CMC both seem like exceptional choices.
Absolutely. Both offer incredibly rigorous academics, really strong faculty mentorship professors who are leaders in their fields, and just excellent outcomes for undergrads.
Especially if you're interested in something like neuroscience, taking advantage of that whole Claremont consortium environment.
Yeah, it's clear they offer different but equally compelling paths. You've got Pomona with its deep liberal arts tradition, heavy undergrad research focus.
Right, maybe more the classic model, refined.
And then CMC with this new integrated sciences program bringing in heavy computation and data science, plus that strong emphasis on leadership and internships.
So for you listening, it really comes down to fit, doesn't it?
I think so. Your learning style, what kind of environment you thrive in, do you want that deep immersion in the traditional liberal arts at Pomona? Or does CMC's blend of science, leadership, and maybe that slightly more pre-professional vibe appeal more?
It's a good question to ask yourself.
And maybe a final thought to leave you with. How does being at one of these top liberal arts colleges within this unique consortium structure actually shape your experience in a field like neuroscience differently than, say, being at a big research university?
That's interesting. The level of interaction, the cross-disciplinary opportunity.
Exactly. Something to chew on. And of course, we absolutely recommend you check out the websites for Pomona, CMC, Pitzer, and the Claremont colleges as a whole for much more detail.
Definitely dig deeper based on what sparked your interest today. Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive.